The overall process when creating images, like we did with Chan and Derish yesterday, is we're doing a pre-wedding shoot. I have what I call the image triangle, which is concept and technicality and emotion, and that's what we pour into the process on the day to create the image. We have to bookend all of that with things like this to prepare ourselves for the post-production. You know, I've got him holding up the grey card just so that we can have a reference of, you know, the white balance, and then also camera calibration, because every camera sees colour slightly differently, and this just takes out the variance. So I know I'm going to get consistent results. So I always have these things in my camera bag. Once the shoot's done, you know, I quite like this one for a print for the couple. They're going to get a big wall art piece. Print prep is a logical process. Anyone could do it. Once we've done things like set up our cameras and set up our lighting and figured out the concept and done the color management part in camera and making sure it's in the right color space, and I've got that set to Adobe RGB, making sure that the monitor is calibrated, which is calibrated to Adobe RGB. Do whatever you need to do creatively, that's on you. And no one can tell you that's right or wrong, okay? So for me, I'll always make sure there's tonality in the shadows, tonality in the highlights. I want it to look as close as possible to what I'm seeing with my own eyes. You know, so there's that shot out of camera, and it's got the information that I know it needs. And after I've processed it, I've opened it up and it looks a little bit like this. And then I'll have a process of maybe some noise reduction, a little bit of sharpening for print, depending on the size and the media I'm printing on. You have to pick your paper based on the nature of the image. There are all sorts of variations on all of these that you can have in terms of texture and finish, and they all have slightly different characteristics in terms of how they handle light tones and dark tones and mid-tones. And then it's the final preparation for the media type I'm using. You have to use paper profiles. Each printer is going to behave differently, and each paper will behave differently with each printer. So you have to create a profile for that paper and printer combination. Canon have profiled each type of paper for each kind of printer. So for me, it's going to be my Canon Image Pro 4100. And I'm going to tell it what kind of paper it is. And it's a fine art paper, and it's a heavyweight fine art paper, so that's what I'll pick. This tells a printer how to physically handle the paper. Some paper's very flimsy, some paper's very thick, almost like card. So the rollers need to apply the proportionate pressure not to leave marks, which I see all the time in the industry. You know, I see as a print judge, as a print chair, as a mentor, as a photographer, when it comes back from certain labs, the paper handling hasn't been great, usually because there's something happening in the printer. There's roller marks. What it also does is it tells the printer just how much suction to apply to the paper. So now that we've run through the settings, we've selected the printer, we've selected the paper, it's ready to go.